So I thought I'd let this one stew for a while. I thought I'd let it play out a little bit and see what happened, to see if more of the truth came out. But as we're getting into the trial of James Holmes, the guy who's accused of, and we all know committed the shooting at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado. As that trial's getting going, coming to the conclusion that what I experienced personally in regards to this tragedy is apparently never going to come to light. So I thought I'd take a minute and or 10 or whatever it takes to get out what it was that I experienced, because to me there's a lot more that took place than we as the public know of. So here's my story. All right. So I'm actually from, coincidentally, Aurora, Colorado. I don't live there now, but I was at the time I was out there visiting with my mom. My kids and I were out there, and so we were in Aurora. And the night that this happened was, that was actually like a day. Let's see, it was midnight Friday. Anyway, it was like the day before we were coming back home. But my point is that where my mom resides is very, very close to where where the theater is and where the shooting took place. So the night that this took place, it was probably about, probably close to 1 o'clock in the morning. My kids were all asleep. My mom was, asleep in her room with her husband, and I was just getting ready to lay down. And as I start to lay down, all of a sudden I hear just a tremendous amount of sirens. I mean, crazy sirens going by. Sirens, helicopters, I mean, just you name it, just chaos. And you could tell that something was going on, something big. This noise actually woke my mom up, who said to me, hey, Jeremy, do you hear that? I wonder what's going on. I'll turn on the news and see what's happening. At the time, there wasn't anything on the news just yet. But my first response, since it was, emergency responders that we were, hearing just going crazy outside, my first response was to pop open my scanner, police fire emergency scanner app that I have on my Android phone, and loaded up the Aurora police, to hear what was going on. And again, this was probably close to 1 a.m. And as far as I know, that the actual shooting took place about 12:30 a.m. So I don't want to get too into detail with everything, but probably for the first hour and a half of me listening to the scanner, you would never have guessed that something had happened at that movie theater. Okay, the Aurora police were talking about how them and a variety of other police from cities surrounding Aurora. We're all at the actual Aurora Mall, which is not attached to the theater, is right next to the theater, but is not attached to the theater. So I'm telling you, probably up until 1:45, 2 a.m., the only thing you could hear them talk about on the police scanner was that they were, number one, they had every entrance of the mall covered. They had the mall covered by police. They had mentioned that they were using the theater as like a meeting spot, or I can't think of the word right now, but basically where they would all gather to like their headquarters or whatever, their temporary headquarters. That was the mall, or the theater parking lot was where they were gathering as all these people were searching the mall. They were saying that they were taking in bomb-sniffing dogs. Specifically, I heard them, that they were each going in one entrance at a time with bomb-sniffing dogs, that they were looking for bombs, and that they were looking for a suspect, and, just listening to the police traffic. At one point they actually cut out and said that they needed to switch over to a private, a private frequency. And I didn't hear much for a little while. It came back, and probably, I don't know, maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, they had said over, and this is a police scanner. This is the actual police communicating with one another. They had said that they had a suspect at gunpoint being held in front of the Hellsberg Diamond store inside the Aurora Mall. And this was shortly after that, there had been some information going over the frequencies that something had actually taken place at the mall. Again, I mean, for the first, I don't know, hour and a half, couple hours of listening to this scanner, from the time I heard helicopters and sirens and things going by the house, for the first couple hours, you never would have guessed that something had happened at the theater itself, because they were so focused on the mall. They had mentioned the possibility of a bomb going off in the mall, and it didn't match up. It didn't match up with what we've heard. How about that? And that's why I'm here right now, because after this happened, I mean, I listened. I was up until probably 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning after this all took place. I fell asleep with my headphones listening to the police scanner. Fell asleep, listening to the scanner. So that was what I, went to bed, fell asleep with. And then when I woke up in the morning, of course, I turned the news on right away. We had the news on, or I had the news on also while I was listening to this throughout the night as well. And, to determine, and when I heard that it was, a shooting at the theater and all that stuff. But, I continuously listened to the news, followed this story just religiously, and just waited to find out. They said that they got James Holmes, like, right after he started shooting, like at, close to 12:30 a.m., and, that's what the news reported, that he did this by himself, and yada, yada, yada. And I just continuously listened to hear who was that suspect they got in the Aurora Mall. What was that person doing in the Aurora Mall? Why were they searching for bombs with bomb-sniffing dogs? Why were they talking about bombs over the police radio? Why did all this happen? Who was that person that they arrested in the mall? I don't know. And nobody does, apparently. So I kept listening. I flew back home. Let's see. I mean, technically, this incident happened on Friday night. It was like Thursday night into Friday morning. You view it how you want, because at midnight it's Friday. I flew home on Saturday. And, I continued to follow this story as it was national news. And I waited. I kept checking on, Denver's local news websites. And nothing ever came out about the additional suspects and why they were searching for bombs and why they thought they were bombs in the mall. That still has never come to light. And so, at that time, I was really bothered by this, because I sat there listening with my own ears to the actual, police that were involved in this, and I heard what I heard. Several thousand people were listening to the same thing I was that night, and so I'm not the only one that heard this. And as I realized that they weren't ever going to say anything about it, I mean, I personally contacted Channel 9 News. I called them in Denver. I contacted CNN. I contacted, I think it was Channel 7 in Denver, and I asked what happened, or if they had heard anything about this. Now, Channel 9 in Denver, a person I got on the phone said that they had that same information that I had heard, but that they couldn't report it until the police reported it officially. And as anybody knows that's ever followed this story, that's never happened. It's never come out. So you tell me what happened. I thought maybe if we waited it out, got to the trial, that maybe some other kind of information would come out, and it hasn't. So, I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist by any means. I'm a guy that's, that this hit close to home to. I mean, my kids and I had just gone to that theater a couple weeks before that to see a movie together, because that's the theater that we always went to in Aurora, and I was right down the street. This affected me in a lot of different ways, and it's very upsetting to me that there's information that so many people were able to hear with their own ears, but that never came out, and still hasn't come out. And that even the police department... that's another one. Sorry, I had to cut in to myself. I called the Aurora Police Department. I did call the Aurora Police Department and asked about this. And they said they couldn't give me any information. So, they didn't deny what I heard. They just said they wouldn't respond or give me information to it. So, you decide, folks. Anybody else heard about this? I know I'm not alone. I don't know anybody else that was up that night that heard this personally, but I do know that on the scanner app it shows you how many people are listening, and there was upwards of over 5,000 people that night listening to the same thing I was. So there's something going on, and I'm again frustrated. The folks in my life told me, hey, just settle down when all this happened. Everything will come out. And we'll find out what you heard. Yeah, I haven't. And honestly, I don't know that I will. I mean, look at James Holmes, dude. That dude is... I don't think he's crazy, to be honest with you. I think that he plays a very good crazy character. I think that there's a lot more to this, because if there wasn't, we would know who the other suspect was they caught in the mall, why they were looking for that person, why they were looking for bombs, and why, they were talking about a bomb going off within the first couple hours of this happening. So I think James Holmes is like a puppet. That might be. I mean, there might be something going on. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think somebody that acts that loco, that very well probably wasn't alone in this, but that the police are hiding the other person. I think his crazy shit's an act, honestly. I think it is. I mean, seriously, how could somebody who acts that loco... I mean, I'm following the news, and they're talking about the weird shit that he does. And honestly, somebody that crazy, think about it, man. People that crazy can't come up with such clever things. I'm sorry. Alright? I'm crazy as fuck. But there ain't no way in hell I could come up with some devious plan and set up a bunch of bombs in my apartment. And you know what I'm saying? That was one smart motherfucker. And he's still being smart. And he's a good actor. So, you know what? Let's talk about this. Anybody know what the hell's going on? Anybody know who the other suspect was? Anybody know why it never came out? Anybody know anything about this? Because I just told you everything I know. And that's basically that I know that there is more than what we as the public know. And, again, I'm frustrated. Because we deserve to know. A lot of people lost their lives. And, I think that those families and of those folks and the friends, they need to know what happened. They need to know what happened that night. So, let's get together. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out what the hell is going on, man. Because, yeah, James Holmes was one crazy fuck that shot a bunch of people up. But he wasn't alone. And there's somebody out there, I think, that it should also be held accountable. So, thanks again for your time. And we'll see you later, guys.